Hello, and welcome to Serenity Reads. Today I'm just going to do what I'm reading for September, so what I'm currently working on. And I've got a lot on the go at the moment. I'm intentionally trying something new this month, which is to kind of cycle read. I usually pick a book, read it, finish it, and then pick up another book. But this month, I'm not really feeling reading. So I'm kind of saying, okay, you got to read like 3 chapters of this, then you pick up a different one, another 3 chapters, and keep cycling through them. And it's working for me. I found my mojo, my reading mojo, again, doing it that way. So the 4 tendencies. So this is one of those personality profiles, the idea that everybody fits into one of 4 options. Um, I've been hopping around in this book. I haven't really been reading it chronologically. I did the quiz to see where I fit. It's more your personality in terms of expectations and how you either meet your own or other people's expectations. So I'm always one for self-improvement. It's interesting. I definitely agree. I was a questioner, and I'm definitely a questioner. So it's kind of insightful, but I didn't really feel that like the paragraph or the entire chapter, it's more than a paragraph on questioning. I didn't really feel like it gave me anything new or insightful. Um, I feel like if you are one of the other tendencies, I've only read the obliger. There's also the rebel and upholder, the upholder. I haven't read those two, but I feel that if you fall in the category of an obliger, there's a lot of really good ideas. I just didn't feel like there was a lot of good suggestions for questioner. Maybe that's because that's what I am. The other nonfiction that I'm reading at the moment is I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. I'm not very far into this at all. I'm honestly on like chapter 3. I've just started. I adore crime. I've watched every crime series on Netflix. I own every Agatha Christie book. I love mysteries. I love crime. I love serial killers. I love Criminal Minds, TV show, all that jazz. So this is definitely in my wheelhouse. I'm not that jazzed by the writing to start. I feel like she is injecting herself almost too much into the story, as opposed to just retelling the events of the crime. But maybe that was just the beginning few chapters, just to establish who she is and what she's doing. So we'll see how that develops. But basically, it's her obsessive search for the Golden State Killer, or a man who started out as a rapist in California, and then escalated to murder. So, weird as it sounds, I'll be excited to get to those chapters. But right now, it's kind of setting up how she got involved in researching this and it kind of becoming an obsession for her. So, I mean, I'm definitely still going with it, but I'm more excited to get to the crime. So, 2 other books that I've only recently started, I'll go with the one I've read the least, is The Library at Mount Char. And I picked this up on recommendation from Books Like Whoa. So I was watching her channel, and she did one of those, like, if you like this, you'll like that type thing, and did a comparison that said this book was actually better in the same genre. Loving it so far. Again, barely started, maybe 5 chapters in. It has a very Umbrella Academy feel if you watch that on Netflix. So it's, the opening premise is we've got 12 people. They all have a portfolio or a section of a library that they were essentially responsible for learning and mastering all of that. So be it languages, be it death, be it the spirit world. We haven't even really like delved into what all 12 of the catalogs are. But essentially they were spearheaded by this father figure who had trained all of these 12 in their discipline, in their catalog, and he is now missing. And so they've come back together after an absence and are trying to locate him. So that's as far as I've gotten. I'm loving the writing style. It's really accessible. It jumps right in, throws you right into the moment. You just kind of got to pick up what's going on with these characters as we go through it. So that's really cool so far. So I'm really intrigued to see where this goes. Also started The Kingdom. So this is YA sci-fi. This is by Jess Rothenberg. This is really fun. This is a Disney dystopia. So it's very Westworld, if you've watched that. So we have our AI characters. Okay, that was a big pause. I was taking my dogs for a walk. So I don't really remember where I was with this, but I know I was talking about the kingdom. I said it was like Westworld, in that there's AI and that things can happen to them with their interaction with guests to the kingdom, which is a Disney world, basically. And so all of our AI are think of them as Disney princesses because that's basically what they are. I love Disney World. So this really appeals to me. I like this dystopian idea. I am a little more than halfway through. It's really fun. It reads really quick. It's YA. It has some text. So it has a little bit of alternative media. So that's kind of fun too. So basically, the premise is Anna has committed a crime, or so it seems, and we're getting her trial transcripts and we're getting the sort of flashbacks to the events that led up to this crime, that this AI life form should not have been able to commit, but she started having more and more human feelings. I'm really enjoying it so far. I will have this done by early next week, and I'm definitely going to put up a review about this book. Okay, so the next three books I'm going to talk about are books that I've been reading for more than the month of September. They've been an ongoing project for various reasons, mostly because the books I just showed you, they're from the library. So library books, given that I only have them for a finite time, get precedent over other books. So these three books I own, which means I'll get back to them. So the first is The Black Prism by Brent Weeks. I picked this up based on the recommendations of both Daniel Green and Murphy Napier, who have fantastic channels that I thoroughly enjoy watching. This is color magic. So we have a world where certain people can draw from the light spectrum. This is the Lightbringer series. This is book one in that series. It's pretty substantial. And so basically, people, you have an affinity to the green spectrum of light, and then you can draw green and create green things, meaning that there's like an ability associated with green. Like if you can see red spectrum, then you have more of a propensity to develop fire items within the red. Blue is kind of methodical, that sort of thing. There are characters who can draw on more than one color, two colors. There are polychromias who can draw on multiple colors. And then there is the Prism himself, who is supposed to be a once in a generational, let's say, although in this book it's definitely twice, there's two in a generational, who can draw all the colors. And they are kind of put as like the ultimate figurehead of the realm. I'm about a quarter of the way through, so not that far into it. Thoroughly enjoying it. Got it out from the library, returned it to the library unfinished, and went and bought my own copy because I know that I want to continue this series and I want to have it on my bookshelf. So although I'm super keen to get back to reading it, it's going to get put aside till I finish the library books. This is a from my husband's shelf. We will call it that. Every now and then I delve onto my husband's shelf. He is an exclusively fantasy reader. His shelf may as well be the fantasy section of your local bookstore because within fantasy, he doesn't discriminate. Just outside that genre, he rarely ventures. So he is the biggest push for me reading of fantasy. I went away from it for a while. I'm slowly returning. I'm in a bit of a fantasy kick right now just because I want to open myself up back to the world. So this is Raymond Feist, Daughter of the Empire, and I'm not sure what the series itself is called. I know it's a trilogy. So this is book one. I have read the entire trilogy before. It's one of those where like I don't really remember it, but as I'm reading, I'm like, oh yeah. It's basically like as we near the end of each chapter, I suddenly remember what's going to happen. but I don't remember how the book's going to end, or I don't remember anything beyond a chapter at a time. I am 3/4 of the way through this, thoroughly enjoying it. I enjoy it because if we want to talk subgenres, I love court fantasy. My ultimate all-time favorite book is Shogun by James Clavell, and his entire Asia saga I adore. Um, this book is Shogun in a fantasy setting. I don't know which one came first. I haven't done the research. I'm going to tip my hat to Clavell because his is set in Japan and follows true historical Japanese culture, specifically samurai culture. This is samurai culture in a fantastic world setting. Um, so many similarities. It's that court intrigue. It's house against house with an undercurrent of medieval Japanese culture. So if you're into court intrigue, I highly recommend. Our main protagonist is very likable. I'm blanking on her name at the moment, probably because I have too Mara. So Mara is, starts out the book about to become a nun, effectively, and then gets thrown into being the head of her house when her father and brother are killed. That's not spoilers. It's like chapter 1, page 1. So she has to learn court intrigue very quick, and she proves to be pretty proficient at it very quickly. So she's a fun, strong, feisty protagonist to follow. And my last one, I'm so sorry. Brandon Sanderson, The Way of Kings. Remember, I am finding my way back to fantasy. This is the Stormlight Archive. I understand that this is God to fantasy readers, some fantasy readers, that this is praised above all else. I am struggling. Not because of the writing, not because of the world. I thoroughly enjoy our main male protagonist so far, whose name I'm blanking again. Honestly, it's weird. Kaladin. Kaladin is lovely, and I love chapters with Kaladin. My problem, and why I'm halting in my reading, is that Shallan, Shallan, who seems to be our main female protagonist. They are unrelated. They're separate chapters going on about each. At this point, they have not merged up for me. I just can't stand her. I find her really annoying. I find her really whiny, and I'm struggling to get through her chapters. So I know I must persevere. I will persevere. I will get into this book. Not right now. I left it for last because it's going to be last. All right, I've got really noisy dogs going on behind me, so I think that will be the end of this first video on what I'm reading in September. Thank you so much for your time. I would love to hear what you are reading in September. Cheers.